Welcome back to our journey into the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. And if you're new here, a special welcome. You've just entered a realm of the strange, the chilling, and the unexplained. In today's video, we've got some truly gripping and mysterious stories lined up for you. So if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your fellow mystery lovers, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story. Let's dive in, because sometimes the truth is far more terrifying than fiction. Deep within the misty woods of Norway, a melody haunts the silence. A piano playing in the dark, with no pianist, no instrument, and no trace of a source. For over 2 decades, hikers and researchers have followed the sound, chasing notes that drift between trees like whispers from another world. Some found only footprints in the moss, and one never returned. What if the music you hear isn't from this world, but from a memory still trying to finish its last song? The Piano in the Forest, Norway, Lillehammer, 2004. A lonely melody echoing through the woods, where there's no person, no instrument, yet the music persists. Could it be a soul that has forgotten its way home, leaving behind a tune that plays endlessly in silence? The story began spreading in hiking and camping communities across southern Norway around 2004, especially near the Jorstadmoen forest, about 7 kilometers from Lillehammer. Dozens of reports were sent to the local environmental office and the Norwegian Institute of Natural Sound, (NS), all describing the same thing: piano music drifting through the dense forest, often at dusk or close to midnight, when mist blankets the ground and not even the birds make a sound. In 2007, local media picked up the story after a group of Oslo students claimed they had reached the source of the sound, only to find footprints pressed into damp moss, a circling murder of crows, and a clearing in the woods where something large had clearly once been placed, then removed. In 2013, a documentary crew captured a 37-second audio clip resembling Chopin, but with haunting variations, matching no known recording. Despite analysis using high-frequency scanning and AI software, the piece could not be recreated. A sound expert commented, "This isn't music played by human hands. It feels more like a memory playing itself back." Thomas Lund, a high school teacher, recounted his first encounter with the music while hiking alone in September 2004. He had stopped near a small brook when he heard piano notes echoing through the trees, clear, pristine, and free of distortion. With Chopin, I'm sure, but there was no piano, no one playing. I walked toward the sound for 10 minutes, and then it just stopped. Other campers described similar encounters. Classical piano drifting through the mist, sometimes near, sometimes far, like being played in a vast room hidden among the trees. No one ever found a pianist. No one ever saw a piano. In a cold winter night of 2007, A group of Oslo University students entered the Jorstadmoen forest armed with recording equipment, spotlights, and a single white candle. Following the advice of a local elder at 11:17 p.m., they captured a particularly vivid sequence, falling chords, then a lullaby-like melody, delicate and slow. As they moved deeper into the forest, their flashlights flickered and glitched. Even though the batteries were fresh, they stumbled upon a circular clearing roughly 4 meters wide, with a square depression in the soil as if something heavy had been placed there. Bare human footprints pressed into wet moss led inward, but there were no returning steps. Perched on nearby branches were dozens of crows, completely still, all facing the center. When one student struck a lighter to examine the space, the entire flock shrieked and took off in unison, spiraling above the group before vanishing into the trees. The documentary team from Wild Echoes camped for 3 nights in the Jorstadmoen forest. On the second night, their equipment recorded a 37-second melody. It began like Nocturne Op. 9 No. 2, but then fractured, warping in rhythm, distorting the notes, as if someone with unsteady hands was trying to remember how to play. One audio analyst noted. It sounds like someone who was once brilliant, but now plays from broken memory. There's a moment, it almost sounds like the player is weeping. I'm not exaggerating. Spectral analysis revealed that the melody echoed as if played in an enclosed space, but the team was standing in an open clearing, surrounded by nothing but trees and rocks. No instruments, no humans. Halvard, an elderly blind man known for his perfect pitch, claimed he had heard the piano since his youth. At first, it was just a few tentative notes, like someone searching for a lost sound. But over the years, the melody grew fuller as if the player was remembering more and more. One night, after a long piece, Halvard said he heard a chair being pushed back, followed by a deep, sorrowful sigh. Then, nothing. But minutes later, he felt breath near his ear and a sensation that someone was standing just beside him. When he called out to his wife, she was fast asleep downstairs. A group of amateur photographers stumbled upon a black ivory piano key resting atop a pile of dry leaves. It showed no signs of decay or damage. When one of them picked it up, a soft chime rang out in the air. Even though no strings were attached, they searched for the rest of the piano but found nothing. As they walked away, the one holding the key turned back and claimed to see a shadowed figure dressed in black, head bowed, standing in the clearing. But when they returned to check, the space was empty. Local folklore tells of a young musician who lost his way in the woods during the 19th century. He carried a makeshift piano to practice, even in the cold. His body was found in the spring, leaning against a tree, hands frozen in playing position. His piano was brought to the village church, but soon after, it shattered without cause, untouched and undisturbed. Since then, every winter, people hear piano music echoing from the Jorstadmoen forest. Crows circle the trees in a silent spiral. In 2022, a solo backpacker sent a short message to a friend. I heard it. Chopin, then something else. I followed the sound. I saw the crows. I saw the clearing. No one there. But I swear someone was standing next to me. Message sent at 10:41 p.m. He never returned. His phone and backpack were later found near the clearing, next to a second piano key. If a soul is trapped between memory, longing, and a melody that will never end, how long will that tune continue to play? And if, on a cold night, you hear it drifting through the trees, would you dare to follow it? Can a child sing in a language that never existed? In 1980, at an orphanage hidden deep in the Romanian woods, 12 children began singing in unison at exactly midnight, in a language no one had ever heard. They didn't smile. They didn't play. They were waiting for something older than mankind. The files were sealed. The children disappeared, but the song still echoes somewhere in the dark. The First Children, Sinaia Orphanage, Romania, 1980. When children sing in unison at midnight in a language no one taught them, what are they really saying? In 1980, under Nicolae Ceausescu's regime, a series of unexplained events occurred at the Sinaia Orphanage, an isolated institution nestled deep within the Carpathian Mountains of Romania. The first known account came from Mirela D., a nurse who secretly kept a personal journal while working there. According to unofficial records, a group of 12 children, aged 3 to 7, began exhibiting increasingly bizarre behavior. They communicated in an unidentified language, one unknown to any local or international linguist. At precisely midnight, they sang a haunting, synchronized chant. The sound was cold, rhythmic, and unnatural, described by witnesses as guided by something outside the human will. After 9 weeks, all 12 children were removed. Records were sealed, and the orphanage was later repurposed into a restricted military facility. Employees were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements. The following reconstruction is based on Mirela D.'s journal, recovered by an anonymous source and later analyzed by Romanian independent archivists in 2009. Mirela D., a 28-year-old night nurse, began documenting strange incidents in her private notebook on June 5, 1980. For 3 consecutive nights, at exactly 12:03 a.m., 12 children from room 4 awoke simultaneously, not crying, not afraid, but singing. The melody was uniform, precise, repeated every night. The voices were high-pitched, distant, almost ceremonial. Mirela wrote, "They sing like a choir, a perfect choir. No one misses a note." At first, the staff assumed the children had mimicked something from a radio broadcast, but no such music had been aired, and the children, taken from different towns across Romania, had never met before arriving here. By the second week, staff noticed the children no longer used Romanian to communicate. Instead, they spoke a guttural, clipped language with strange syntax and unfamiliar phonetics. One teacher recorded several words and passed them to a friend, an assistant linguist in Bucharest. The reply she received was chilling. "This isn't a language. It's a simulation of one, constructed by something that has never truly heard human speech. Morela's journal noted, "There is something in their eyes. They don't play. They don't ask for anything. They wait, like they know what's coming." By the fourth week, 3 nurses and 2 caretakers reported experiencing the same recurring dream. They stood in a forest surrounded by singing children. The melody echoed endlessly. They couldn't remember any faces, but the voices remained. Long after waking, Mirela, though agnostic, tried to transcribe the song phonetically from her dreams. She sent the written version to an old village priest known for his knowledge of ancient tongues. 3 days later, the priest arrived in person, visibly disturbed. He looked at the paper and asked, "Do you know what this is?" "It's a chant, a summoning. It calls the first ones to return. I've only seen similar phrases in fragmented Dacian manuscripts." The children became increasingly synchronized. They woke, walked, and turned their heads in perfect unison. One nurse wrote, "I tapped a child's shoulder. All 12 turned and looked at me at once. They didn't blink. They didn't laugh. They ignored toys and refused to draw or color." Mirela believed they were no longer normal children, or worse, that they were being used as vessels for something else. She attempted to capture the phenomenon on film using a handheld camera. But when she reviewed the footage, the audio was silent. The singing she had clearly heard was missing. On July 17th, one of the children vanished. The window was found open, on the 2nd floor, with no sign of escape, no blood, no footprints. That night, the shared dream returned to the night staff. This time, 11 children were singing in the forest, and the 12th stood behind them, facing away, as if guarding the perimeter. The following morning, the children continued singing. Mirela noted, "Only 11 were present, but I swear, I still heard 12 voices." On July 22nd, 6 men dressed in unmarked black uniforms arrived. They told all staff to leave the premises for 72 hours. When they returned, the children were gone. Every file, recording, and medical chart had been removed. Luckily, Mirela had hidden her personal journal inside a hollow wooden beam near the laundry room. That notebook became the only surviving record of the event. The orphanage was closed, then quietly repurposed into a military biological research facility. All access restricted. No official investigation ever took place. For years, no one knew what happened to the 12. In 2006, at a children's shelter in Brasov, a trainee teacher reported hearing 2 children singing a strange song in a language she couldn't place. When asked where they'd learned it, one replied, "We remember it from before we were born." A linguist analyzed the audio. His conclusion was shocking. The phonetic patterns match Mirela DS 1980 transcription, over 90% accuracy. The children might have been split up, moved, or hidden. Or worse, they were never gone, just dormant. If a language can be sung without ever being taught, who planted it in their minds? Were they truly the first children or the last of something else? For students vanished for 29 hours in Glenfeshie, Scotland. When found, they stood motionless in thick fog, silent, unaware. The camera showed they hadn't moved for over 7 hours. And at some point, the footage's timecode started, running backward. If no one walked forward, why did time still move? The fog with no exit. Glenfeshie Highlands, Scotland, 2003. A case of collective amnesia that science couldn't explain. This incident took place in September 2003 and is documented in Report 427/GF by Highland Police, along with supporting data from local investigations. For university students disappeared for 29 hours inside the Glenfeshie region, a mist-covered, forested valley in the Cairngorms. All were found alive, but could not remember what had happened. Their GPS devices, camera recordings, and digital journals suffered inexplicable disruptions. Yet enough evidence remained to partially reconstruct the event. What made the case truly disturbing wasn't just the temporary memory loss, but what the camera recorded, even when no one was conscious of it. On September 14, 2003, students from the University of Edinburgh set out on a weekend trek into the Glenfeshie woods. Liam Fraser, group leader, archaeology major; Anna Reed, freelance photographer; Martin Doolin, electrical engineering student; Chloe Burns, psychology major. They carried tents, 3 days worth of food, topographical maps, GPS, and a GoPro camera for documenting their trip. The last written log on Anna's phone read, "First night, camped by a stream near Glenfeshie Lodge. Warm sleep, weather perfect. Everything was going well until the second day." The camera shows the group waking up, having breakfast, and packing. At exactly 6:11 a.m., a thick wall of fog rolled in from the east, much heavier than any forecast had predicted. Liam is heard saying, "Never seen mist this dense out here." The footage following that last 2 minutes, filled entirely with white fog. No shapes, no depth, just wind sounds, breathing, and a faint connection lost. From the GPS eventually, the camera was set down on the ground, then went silent. The 4 students were completely off radar for 29 hours and 17 minutes. None of them remembered moving, eating, or sleeping. When the search team located them at 11:43 a.m. the next day, all 4 were standing upright, backpacks still on, gazing blankly into the fog, unresponsive to voices. It took nearly 15 minutes of bright light and shouting before they began to react. One by one, the first to speak was Chloe. She whispered, "The fog, it's inside me." The recovered GoPro footage contains 7.5 hours of recording. In it, the group is seen standing completely still in the fog. No talking, no movement at one point. The video's timestamp slows down, then begins to count backwards to 2 hours, 47 minutes, and 15 seconds. Anna slowly turns her head to face the camera. Her eyes are completely white, no pupils. Her lips move. "Who's watching me from behind?" But there is no one behind her. Martin attempted to recover GPS maps. All data showed they never moved from their original location. Yet the clocks ticked forward normally. Point one corrupted file repeated the line. No way out. No way out. No way out. Anna, who had no background in coding, handwrote a journal entry in Morse code. When decoded, it read, "Time doesn't move because we never left." After the event, each student developed unusual symptoms. Liam couldn't look into a mirror for more than 5 seconds. He constantly felt someone standing behind him. Chloe frequently smelled burning smoke inside her apartment, despite no fire. Martin experienced time lapses, walking down one hall only to find himself in another room, unaware how he got there. Anna painted dozens of images using only gray, each depicting a faceless figure hovering in fog. They underwent psychological monitoring for 6 months. In 2012, a documentary crew wanted to revisit Glen Feshie to recreate the story. All 4 students declined involvement. Liam said simply, "I'm not afraid of the fog. I'm afraid of what was already waiting inside it." Today, Glen Feshie remains a popular hiking destination, but some locals quietly warn, if you hear footsteps behind you and there's no one there, don't move. Don't turn around. Wait for the fog to pass. Fog is supposed to be a natural phenomenon, but if it can distort time, erase memory, and deceive machines, then maybe we never really left the mist at all. Perhaps we're still there, standing perfectly still, while everything else we remember is just an echo. In a quiet apartment in Grass, every night at exactly 10:13 p.m., a sound echoes from the west wall, like a reversed cry for help. There's no hollow behind it, just solid concrete. When reversed, the recording whispers, "Don't look for me. I'm still there." But no one is missing. No one is trapped. So where is the voice coming from? The sound in the west wall. Grass, Austria, 1984. An old apartment, a solid concrete wall, and a sound that appears every night at exactly 10:13 p.m., like a reversed cry for help. But when they broke the wall, there was nothing there. This case is derived from official records of the Graz Police Department, Austria, involving a series of unexplained audio phenomena at apartment 4A, 3rd floor, building number 17, Maria Hilfer Strasse, in the heart of the city. The file, opened in September 1984 under case code Wall 204/1984, documents repeated reports of unidentifiable sounds coming from the west wall of the bedroom, always at exactly 10:13 p.m. What makes this case disturbing is that the sound, when played normally, seems meaningless, a low hiss. But when reversed, it reveals a sentence, "Don't look for me. I'm still there." There were no missing persons, no crime scene, no void behind the wall, only solid concrete. And yet, A voice was speaking from where no voice should exist. In August 1984, Helga Reich, a 31-year-old music teacher, moved into apartment 4A, an old, quiet two-bedroom flat in Central Grass. It was peaceful, clean, and perfect for a single person who valued silence and solitude. But within the first week, she noticed something strange. Each night at exactly 10:13 p.m., a sound emerged from the west wall of the main bedroom. Not water pipes, not neighbors, but something mechanical and repeating, like a looped recording, lasting around 12 to 17 seconds before vanishing. Helga, curious and unnerved, recorded it on a cassette tape. What she heard when playing it back was disappointing, just faint, static. But then, on a whim, she played the tape in reverse. When reversed, the static became a distinct whisper in English, low, raspy, male. "Don't look for me. I'm still there." Helga froze. She played it again, and again, always the same phrase. She used a different cassette. Same result. No variation in timing. No other sounds. Always at 10:13 p.m., she contacted the Graz police. A small team was dispatched with acoustic equipment, ready to dismiss it as faulty plumbing or urban interference. But they found no source of sound, no pipes, no vents, and no void behind the west wall. It was a structural concrete barrier between two buildings. Investigators inspected adjacent units and floors. The apartment above, the fourth floor, had been vacant since 1978 due to a fire, but it wasn't directly above the wall. It was offset to the northeast. Architectural plans revealed that the west wall was a load-bearing concrete slab, with no ducts, no cables, and no crawl spaces. Oh, where did the voice come from? A senior sound engineer said. If this is real sound, it's coming from a space that doesn't exist on the plans. A construction supervisor added, sound doesn't materialize from nowhere unless it's recorded and played back. But who was playing it? And why every night at the exact same time? Helga began researching the building. She discovered that during World War II, in 1944, the address had been repurposed for military storage and allegedly used by the Gestapo for civilian interviews in a sealed, soundproof interrogation. Roomed at an old hand-drawn map in the city archives showed a narrow rectangular room, now aligned precisely where the west wall stands. That room had been sealed and filled with concrete during renovations in 1952, which meant the wall Helga heard sounds from was once the entrance to a hidden interrogation room. A specialized sound analysis team joined the investigation. Using high-frequency sensors and directional microphones, they confirmed a weak acoustic anomaly at 10:13 p.m. each night. Real, detectable, but untraceable. Helga made one final recording. But this time, when reversed, the voice said something new. They still hear me. Every night. I never left. It was the last time the sound ever played. The following night, and every night after, the apartment fell silent. With permission from local authorities, a construction crew drilled into the west wall. After hours of careful work, they found nothing, just 80 centimeters of solid concrete. No gaps, no wires, no hidden space, no blood, No hidden speakers, no devices, but the tape recordings, physical evidence, still existed, and the voice was undeniably there. Helga moved out in 1986. Subsequent tenants never reported hearing voices, though some claimed that the light in the west room flickered at exactly 10:13 p.m., or that the phone would ring once and then stop. No number displayed. In 2001, a university music student found Helga's old cassette player and reversed the tape again. This time, the whisper said, "Don't forget me. Walls remember." If no one was behind the wall, then who whispered every night? And if the room was erased from physical reality, where does its memory still echo? Door number 9 has been sealed for over half a century. But every year, on the same night, people hear knocks and the whistle of a train from nowhere. A man who vanished in 1931 seems to return, to board a train no one can see. This is no legend. This is a true case. The door number 9 that never opened. Mill Creek, Pennsylvania, United States, 1977. In a quiet autumn night in a small town, there stands an old railway station, long abandoned and forgotten. Within it, a sealed door, door number 9, stands silent. No one opens it. No one touches it. Yet every year, on the same night, at the same hour, soft knocks echo from within. And some believe a train still arrives, one not listed on any schedule, to pick up a lone passenger from the other side of reality. This story is reconstructed from actual archival materials preserved in the Huntingdon County Historical Registry, Pennsylvania, USA. The events took place on the night of September 13, 1977, at the old Hartwood Station, a once busy depot active between 1896 and 1951 until fire damage and budget cuts led to its shutdown. Accounts were provided by 3 living witnesses, including Andrew Gardner, the station night watchman present that night. The missing person involved was Charles Eldon Hendricks, a former resident of Mill Creek who vanished mysteriously in 1931, claiming to be catching the last train to New Carthage. On the evening of September 13, 1977, Hartwood Station was quiet, the kind of quiet that creeps under your skin. Only a few in-state lines still ran through, with most passengers being older locals. Andrew Gardner, 53, was the night supervisor, a veteran of the rails, used to stillness and routine at exactly 9:29 p.m. As he reviewed the route schedule, Andrew heard approaching footsteps. He turned to see a middle-aged man, dressed in a heavy wool coat with the collar fastened, wearing a weathered felt hat, pulling a worn leather suitcase. The man spoke calmly. "I'm waiting for the 9:47 to New Carthage. It stops at door 9, correct?" Andrew blinked. Door number 9 had been sealed shut since 1951 after a maintenance fire rendered the adjacent line unsafe. As for New Carthage, It didn't exist in any official network. "I'm sorry, sir," Andrew said. "There's no such route. That door's been locked for decades." The man gave a faint smile. "It still runs. Every year. Same time. Same place. That train is never late." He pulled out a yellowed paper ticket, long outdated. It read, "Door 9 to 9:47 p.m. Destination." Newsunk. Andrew felt a cold wave rise in his chest. Still, not wanting to argue, he nodded politely. "Can wait there if you'd like." The man walked slowly toward door number 9, situated at the far end of a dim corridor beneath flickering tube lights. He sat on the old wooden bench, laid down his suitcase, and gazed silently at the sealed door, padlocked and rusted, untouched. For decades, Andrew checked the schedule again. There was no train at 9:47, and certainly no station or city named New Carthage. It was as if the man had made it all up, or worse, was caught in another time. Minutes passed. Andrew stepped away to fetch his colleague for a second opinion. When he returned, the corridor was empty. The man had vanished. No suitcase, no coat, no footprints, and the door remained tightly sealed, padlock untouched, covered in dust and rust. But the air still held a strange warmth, as if someone had just been standing there. The police were called. Andrew described the man, mid-40s, reserved, formal clothing. The description matched almost perfectly with a missing persons case from 1931. Charles Eldon Hendricks, born 1902, left his home in Mill Creek one morning, telling his wife, "I'll be back in a few days. There's a special train going to New Carthage." He never returned. At the time, New Carthage was believed to be imaginary, or perhaps a mispronunciation. His file was closed with the statement, "Unverifiable destination, assumed voluntary." Departure. Now, 46 years later, a man matching his appearance had appeared, said the exact same thing, at the same platform, near the same sealed door. Hartwood Station officially closed in 1978, but from that point on, locals living near the site began reporting the same occurrence. Every year, on September 13th, a distant train whistle at 9:47 p.m., soft knocks from the inside of door number 9, flickering hallway lights. Despite the power being cut long ago, most disturbing was how the knocking changed. At first, it was a single knock. By 1983, it had grown to 3 rhythmic taps. Since 1990, it has consistently been 6 knocks, each exactly 2 seconds apart. Some listeners claim to hear a faint male voice after the final knock. "I'm still waiting." Locals began calling it the Never Door. No one goes near it. In 2003, a research team from Temple University examined old rail maps. In an 1899 state route diagram, they discovered a faded line connecting Mill Creek, Cross Valley, and Carthage South Turnpike. It had been scratched out as if erased deliberately. They ventured to where New Carthage was marked. All they found was dense overgrowth, crumbling foundations, and rotted wooden boards strewn about. But one plank bore a railway emblem consistent with early 20th century station signage. Whatever had been there was erased from the world, yet not quite gone. In 2007, the town council approved dismantling door 9. but the attempt was abandoned within a day. Thermal sensors picked up a moving heat signature behind the door. Power tools malfunctioned when used within 5 feet of the entrance. One worker collapsed with unexplained seizures, mumbling, "The train's coming. I can hear it." After that, door 9 was permanently welded shut. A wooden board was nailed across it with a hand-painted warning, "Do not open, departed. Never returned." In September 2021, a paranormal investigator secretly set up a motion-triggered camera in the hallway facing door 9. At 9:46 p.m., the camera captured a figure standing silently. Same coat, same hat, same suitcase. The man's back was turned AT. 9:47, the lights blinked 3 times. The figure vanished mid-frame. The camera recorded the distant sound of a train whistle, again, despite no tracks in miles. A faint knocking, 6 beats, followed, and then a whisper, "The train has arrived." Immediately after, the camera stopped working completely. If there is no train, if no one sees it, if the route has been closed for decades, then what arrives every year at 9:47 p.m., September 13th, and is it possible that somewhere beyond our maps and memories, a last train still runs for passengers who vanished long ago, boarding quietly through a door that never opens? A law student vanished deep beneath Toulouse University. No crime, no exit, only a voice recording remained. "I'm not up there anymore. Someone's knocking down below." She was never found. But every year on November 3rd, at 3:03 a.m., the knocking returns. The catacombs below the law school, France, 1994. The mysterious disappearance of Camille Laroche at the University of Toulouse. This account is based on documented evidence from the Toulouse Municipal Police Archives, dated November 1994. Materials include a missing person report, the original 1,863 architectural plans of the Toulouse Faculty of Law, the final audio recording from Camille Laroche's handheld lecture recorder, and CCTV footage from the main hallway, where she was last seen and never emerged again. To this day, Camille's case remains unsolved. Among French law students, it has become one of the most infamous unsolved mysteries, with whispers claiming that Camille stepped into a place that does not belong to our world. On November 3rd, 1994, Camille Laroche, a second-year civil law student, left her last lecture at 5:06 p.m., carrying a small voice recorder. The last person to see her was a classmate who recalled Camille walking alone down the corridor of lecture hall. Surveillance footage shows her entering a side door that led to the ground floor. A section of the building closed due to disrepair. No footage shows her returning. When staff investigated the next day, the door was found locked from the inside. Police coordinated with the university's chief architect to inspect the official plans. The 1863 layout showed only a sealed storage room and a blocked emergency exit beneath Hall C. But search teams uncovered something else, a narrow stone passage, constructed using entirely different masonry than the rest of the building, stretching deep into the earth. It was nowhere on the plans, and no renovation ever documented its existence. Etched faintly into the wall near the entrance was a Latin phrase, Veritas hic non loquitur, here, truth does not speak. Inside Camille's dorm, investigators found her recorder had been recently synced to her computer. The final audio file was 43 minutes long, starting shortly after her last class. The first minutes capture her footsteps echoing down an empty corridor. Her voice is quiet. Maybe this leads to the rear exit. The ground floor is so dark. By minute 17, her voice becomes distant. Wind noises rise, like she's moving deeper underground. At a T-minute 35, she speaks again, panicked. Where am I? There's no signal. Is anyone here? Then silence for 3 minutes. The final whisper, barely audible. I'm not up there anymore. Someone's knocking down below. Authorities authorized the demolition of the brick wall blocking the passage. After only 5 meters inside, radio and light signals failed. One team member grew disoriented and reported hearing whispers in an unknown language, fast and hollow, from everywhere and nowhere. A rope camera was lowered into the shaft. It showed a spiral stone staircase descending into darkness, with no visible indeed AT Step 76. A voice came through the feed, clear and familiar. Camille, though brief. The voice matched Camille's precisely. After the incident, the passage was filled with cement and labeled a geological hazard. Camille's family was denied further access. Her name was quietly removed from the university's active student list. The case was handed to the Ministry of Education. Months later, a retired law professor was overheard saying, "Camille entered a place where law no longer applies." Since 1995, students working late in Hall C have repeatedly reported knocking sounds from beneath the lecture floor, always at exactly 3:03 a.m. began as 3 knocks. By 2000, it became 9. Recently, many describe it as scratching, like fingernails on tile. Motion sensors were installed under the floor. Every year, on November 3rd, Camille's disappearance date, movement is detected below the sealed foundation, where nothing is supposed to be. In 2018, during renovation work on a heritage wing, construction workers discovered a blocked stone slab hidden behind a modern wall. Built in 1995 that when tapped, the slab produced a hollow echo, as if concealing a chamber or room. They removed the plaster and uncovered an iron door labeled C9, the same number as Camille's last lecture hall. Below the dust, a faint message written in white chalk. Lex, non-responded hic. The law does not answer here. As they tried to open the door, all electric equipment cut off. One worker swore he heard a whisper, soft but unmistakable, in French. Je suis encore là. I'm still here. If a person disappears not through crime, not through accident, but by stepping into another reality, where language dissolves, law is silent, and time is circular. Then how can we ever find them again? Architecture students explored an abandoned chapel in Seville. They found a hidden staircase never listed in any blueprint. And in the basement were whispers in Latin. A professor of dead languages refused to hear the full tape, leaving behind one warning: this building isn't haunted. It remembers. The whispers inside the abandoned chapel. San Hilario, Seville, Spain, 1998. An architectural survey turned into a metaphysical nightmare. This case was recorded in May 1998 in the old town of Dos Hermanas, approximately 15 kilometers from Seville. The sources include a report from the Guardia Civil, Spanish Civil Guard, the original audio cassette from the architectural student Sony, recorder, and testimony from Professor Victor Alejo, an expert on abandoned Spanish ruins. Though no deaths occurred, all involved students required psychological therapy afterward. The San Hilario Chapel has remained permanently sealed. Locals now refer to it by a different name: Iglesia del Silencio Vivo, the Church of Living Silence. A group of 5 students from the University of Seville School of Architecture was assigned a field survey and restoration plan for the San Hilario Chapel, a 17th-century religious building abandoned since 1937 after a devastating fire during the Spanish Civil War. The building was declared structurally safe. They were permitted to explore it during daylight hours, using measurement tools, recording devices, and sketching equipment. The group leader, Clara Munoz, was a bright senior student with a deep passion for ancient architecture and an unusually sensitive ear for sound. Day 1 went smoothly. They took photos, measurements, and ambient recordings. But that night, when Clara played back the audio, something strange emerged. At first, the recording revealed nothing but wind and insects. But around minute 13, a sudden burst of low-frequency noise appeared, lasting about 7 seconds. When the volume was amplified, faint whispers could be heard, quick and barely discernible. They assumed it was ambient echo from outside traffic, but the chapel was deep in a sealed forest with no nearby roads. Clara replayed the clip. This time, the entire group heard it clearly. Still here, the room fell silent. One member vomited on the spot. They checked the master file again, but the whisper did not exist in the original, only in the first transferred copy. On the second day of the survey, the team focused on the rear of the main altar. The old stone wall had visible cracks, and when tapped, it produced a hollow resonance. After removing some debris, they found a small black wooden door previously sealed. Behind it lay a narrow spiral staircase leading downward. This passage did not appear on any structural plans. There was no electricity, They used flashlights and brought a temperature gauge and another recorder. The temperature dropped abruptly to 9 degrees Celsius, though outside it was 28 degrees C. At the 17th step, a flashlight flickered out, and Clara whispered, "I hear prayers in reverse." The audio captured in the basement contained 6 minutes of static, but embedded in the noise were phrases in Latin, though no one in the group spoke it. They took the recording to Professor Victor Alejo for analysis. He froze when he heard the third segment, two odes in Traer. Nos nunquam exivimus. You dare enter. We never left. When he reached the final minute, the professor stood up and refused to continue. Do not play that again. These words are not meant to be repeated. They weren't spoken by someone. The building itself is speaking. After the visit, each student began experiencing disturbing phenomena. Clara dreamed she was wearing a nun's robe, locked in a penitent's chamber, being dragged by faceless monks. Jorge, another student, was unable to speak Spanish for 3 days, but instead uttered fluent classical Latin unconsciously. A third member suffered insomnia, hearing nightly chants in their head at 3 a.m. Though staying in a dorm 10 kilometers from the chapel, all phenomena ceased after they burned the recording. The Seville police reviewed archival records. A 1937 document stated that San Hilario was once used to imprison and execute heretical priests, many burned alive in secret rites. The warden, Father Tiberio, reportedly entombed himself in the basement. His body was never found. Locals believe that those who die by fire become unrest whispers, forever trapped between prayer and pain. The government ordered the chapel sealed with a bold red sign. Do not enter government property. Under lockdown. In 2015, a documentary audio crew visited Seville to interview Clara. Though she had changed professions, she still kept her old notebook. Opening to the last page, she said, "Some places aren't meant to be restored. They're meant to be forgotten." That night, the crew placed a recorder outside the locked chapel gate. They stayed for 2 hours. When they reviewed the recording the next day, nothing played. Until minute 2:17, then a female voice, identical to Clara's, whispered into the microphone. "You heard it too, didn't you? At first, I thought I was alone." Some places are not terrifying because they've been abandoned, but because they were remembered. If a building can become a living thing, one that remembers, listens, and speaks, then maybe we're just visitors inside the mind of its walls. The story ends here, but the mysteries still linger somewhere out there, hiding in the dark. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you felt a chill down your spine, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bell, and share this story. We'll meet again in the next night with another mystery. Good night.